My family left me out of Grandma's will reading for being ungrateful. After I gave up 314 days, $43,000 in freelance work, and my own damn life to care for her. They sipped wine, read fake tears, and posted selfies with her pearls. I wasn't even worth a chair. But then the lawyer called. Said Grandma left me something no one else got. A sealed envelope. A second will. And one sentence that changed everything. I was halfway through microwaving leftovers when I saw the photo. My cousin Jess had posted a group picture, champagne flutes in hand, big smiles, standing in Grandma's living room, the one she never let anyone smoke in. The caption read, "A beautiful goodbye. She gave us everything we needed. Except me. I hadn't even known the will reading was happening. No invite. No heads up. No, hey Eli, we're gathering for Grandma." Just silence. Until that post. I dropped the fork I was holding. It clanged against the counter like a gunshot. My hands shook. I refreshed the page, like maybe it would disappear. It didn't. More photos were rolling in. My uncle by the fireplace, my aunt holding up a bottle of rose, Jess in Grandma's favorite recliner. One even showed a cake that said, "Her legacy, our future." I stared at that cake like it was a joke. The room I had cleaned for her when she couldn't move, the chair I helped her into when her bones ached. All of it now backdrop for their private party. And me? I was scrolling on my phone, eating cold spaghetti, like I didn't even exist. Let me back up. My name's Eli. I'm 29. Freelance illustrator, mostly book covers and concept work for indie studios. I'd been living out west for a while, doing all right. Nothing flashy, but enough to stay fed and free. Then a year ago, I got the call. Grandma was sick. Not dramatic, just slowing down. Quiet kind of sick, the kind most people ignore until it's too late. But I didn't ignore it. I packed my studio into 2 suitcases, left the city, and came back home. Not for glory. Not for inheritance. Just because she raised me when my parents couldn't. When I was a scared, skinny kid drawing dragons in math class, she was the one who said, "Good. Keep drawing. Dragons are better than math anyway." I moved into her guest room and became the unofficial nurse. Morning meds, evening tea, middle of the night water runs. I bathed her when no one else wanted to. I kept a spreadsheet of appointments, grocery runs, blood pressure notes. I watched her stories with her, even the boring ones. And I never complained. Never asked for a dime. But when she passed, quietly, in her sleep, I found myself on the outside looking in. My family planned the funeral without asking my input. My name wasn't in the program. They thanked each other in their eulogies. Not once did anyone mention me. I chalked it up to grief. People act weird when someone dies. You give grace. But the will reading? That wasn't grief. That was deliberate. I called my aunt. Straight up. No games. She answered on speakerphone, laughter in the background. I heard a cork pop. "Hey, Aunt Janice," I said. "I just saw the pictures. Was the will reading today?" Long pause. Then, in a tone dipped in fake syrup, she said, "Oh, Eli. Yeah, we didn't think it was necessary for you to be there. Grandma. Well, she didn't leave anything to you." My chest tightened. "What?" I whispered. "She said something about you being entitled," she added, chuckling like it was an inside joke. Entitled. That word hit me harder than any punch. I'd given up my income, my apartment, my clients, $18,000 in lost work. I'd missed cons, deadlines, and 3 gigs that would have landed me a publisher deal. But I was entitled? She said you were too sensitive, Janice added, like she was tossing salt on a wound. Anyway, it was just a quick thing. You're not in it. She hung up before I could respond. I sat on the edge of my childhood bed in Grandma's house. Well, I thought it was still hers, staring at the wood-paneled wall and wondering how a whole life of love could be rewritten by people who didn't even show up until the funeral. And that was when the real twist happened. Because 2 days later, I got a call from Grandma's lawyer. "Mr. Eli?" "Yeah," I answered, thinking maybe they needed my signature for some formality. "I think it's time we talk," he said. "Your grandmother left you something. But she asked it be delivered privately." I didn't breathe for a second. She left something? A letter. And a second will. My heart stopped. A second will. I repeated. "Yes," he said calmly. "Filed separately. And it changes everything. Want to know what was inside Grandma's final letter? Stick with me. Because everything they thought they stole? Grandma had one last surprise. The office was plain. Beige walls. A cheap desk. One dying plant in the corner. But what the lawyer handed me felt heavier than the whole room. An envelope. Handwritten. My name on the front in Grandma's shaky cursive. I didn't open it right away. I just stared at it. The lawyer cleared his throat. You'll want to sit for this. So I did. And then, carefully, like it was a relic or a bomb, I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter. 3 pages. Ink smudged in places. A small gold sticker on the corner. The same one she used to seal my birthday cards as a kid. The first line stopped my breath. If you're reading this, Eli, it means they left you out like I feared they would. And I'm sorry you had to find out this way. She knew. She knew what they were like. They think money defines love. You and I both know that's not true. But I also know you gave up more than any of them ever did. You were here for the hard parts. For the quiet days, the scary nights, the loneliness. I saw it. I never forgot. And I made sure it would be honored. I swallowed hard. My throat burned. I could almost hear her voice as I read it. I filed a second will. Quietly. Janice and the others don't know. I didn't tell them because I didn't trust them. I saw the way they spoke about you behind your back. I heard them whisper when you weren't around, calling you a freeloader, a lost cause. I gripped the edge of the desk. My knuckles went white. They had their lives, Eli. You put yours on pause. For me. So I want you to have the house, the savings account, and the art fund I started for you. It's not much, but it's yours. The lawyer has all the documents. Use it to build what they said you'd never achieve. I finished the letter with my vision blurred. My grandmother had died, but in this moment, it felt like she'd come back to protect me one last time. I looked at the lawyer. She really changed everything? He nodded and pulled out a document. Notarized. Dated 2 months before her death. Her signature, his witness. A sealed, legally binding second will. It left me the majority of her estate. The house. $75,000 in savings. And a private art fund under my name. Built slowly over years, without anyone knowing. The rest of the family? They got what she called parting gestures. She hadn't just changed her will. She'd rewritten her justice. But it wasn't over yet. The lawyer explained that the first will, the one Janice and the others used, was revoked. Invalid. But they had still acted on it. Thrown their celebration. Taken up space in the house. Even tried to sell one of Grandma's paintings online. You'll need to assert your legal rights soon, the lawyer said, folding his hands. We'll send formal notices. There may be pushback. Pushback. That was one word for it. I stepped out of the office with the letter in my pocket and the weight of an inheritance on my shoulders, and not just the money. The truth was heavier than the check. That night, I drove back to the house. Not their house. My house. I pulled up quietly, parked on the curb. All the lights were on. My uncle's truck was in the driveway. Jess's hybrid was next to it. I stood there for a second, gripping the steering wheel, my heart racing. They were inside, drinking, laughing, probably planning new curtains with money that wasn't theirs. I wasn't ready for a war, but I also wasn't going to pretend I didn't exist anymore. I walked up to the door and rang the bell. Janice answered, wine glass in hand. Her face dropped. Eli. I smiled. Calm. Cold. We need to talk. She stepped back, confused. This isn't a good time. No, I said. It's the perfect time. Behind her, the TV was playing a game show. My uncle was on the recliner in socks. Jess was scrolling TikTok on Grandma's couch. I stepped inside without asking. This won't take long. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the second will. Laid it gently on the coffee table like a grenade. Jess squinted at it. What is this? I looked at them all, steady as I could. It's the real will, I said. The one that actually counts. They froze. Janice set her wine glass down too fast. It tipped and spilled. My uncle sat up straight, finally paying attention. Jess grabbed the document, skimmed it, eyes widening. No? This can't be real. It's notarized, I said. Filed. Legal. You're lying, Janice hissed. I didn't flinch. She left me the house. The money. The art fund. All of it. And your will? It's void. The silence that followed was volcanic. Thick. Hot. Ready to erupt. But I was done being quiet. Janice was the first to break. You forged this, she spat, jabbing her finger toward the will on the table. I didn't move. Didn't blink. The lawyer gave it to me. You want his number? Jess stood up too quickly, knocking over a coaster. There's no way Grandma would leave all that to you. You're what? A sketch artist? She was my mother, Janice added, like that gave her more ownership than care. I was there from the beginning. I stared at her. Yeah? And where were you the last year? When she needed help bathing? When she forgot if she took her pills? You didn't even call. My uncle finally grunted from the recliner. So what? You think playing nurse for a few months makes you her favorite? I stepped closer to the coffee table, took out a second envelope. The letter. Grandma's handwriting was unmistakable. I didn't hand it to them. I just let the top of it peek out. She left this too, I said. It's her voice, in her own words. You want to call her a liar too? That quieted the room. Not from guilt. From calculation. I could see it in Janice's eyes. She was already shifting strategies, already thinking about legal challenges, loopholes. I wasn't scared of her. Because Grandma wasn't just smart. She was prepared. The will had gone through a private attorney. It had a video confirmation. She'd even filmed herself signing it. The lawyer showed me the flash drive. I had backup for my backup. Jess sat down hard, pale. So what now? You kick us out. I crossed my arms. Legally? I could. Right now. Janice folded her arms. You really want to do this to your family? I almost laughed. Family, I said. You planned a party the same week she died. You toasted to your inheritance like you'd won the lottery. You didn't even invite me to her funeral dinner. You weren't entitled to be there. Janice screamed, the mask cracking. You're not even a real adult. You draw cartoons for a living. My voice dropped cold. And you're the kind of person who treats death like a gift basket. That shut her up. They didn't argue when I told them I wanted the house cleared by next week. I gave them 7 days. Not out of mercy, but because I knew they'd dig their own graves trying to lawyer up. Sure enough, the next day I got a message from a paralegal. Janice had hired someone from a billboard ad. He called it a contest of wills. He was bluffing. I let him bluff. Then I forwarded everything to my attorney. The official video of Grandma signing. Her medical records confirming sound mind. The notarized date. The revocation of the old will. And then the kicker, the security footage. Yeah, Grandma had Nest cams in the house. One of them showed Janice rifling through her drawers 3 days before the funeral. Another caught her taking photos of jewelry and whispering to Jess, "We'll just say she gave it to us last year." I hadn't even watched the rest yet. But my lawyer had. You want to go to court? He asked them during the mediation call. Because I promise, you'll leave with less than nothing. They didn't show up to the next meeting. 2 days later, Jess posted a cryptic story. Some people forget blood is thicker. I didn't reply. I didn't even view it. But I saw the panic settle into their silence. They were losing grip, losing ground, and they knew it. Meanwhile, I walked the house alone, room by room. I found old sketchbooks she'd saved in her closet, crayon drawings from when I was 8, doodles she laminated, a post-it that read Eli's best one yet, on a dragon drawing from middle school. In her nightstand, a folder titled, For Eli, When They Try to Cheat Him. Inside was every receipt I'd paid, the home nurse invoices, medicine I'd bought, grocery lists, even the flight confirmation when I first came back. She kept it all. It wasn't about money. It was about memory, proof that I mattered to her. On her bookshelf was a sealed envelope, different paper, different handwriting. Inside was a second letter. This one wasn't legal. It was personal. Eli, if they made you feel small, know this. I saw everything. And I chose you. You were there when no one else was. Not because you wanted anything, but because you have the kind of heart this family forgot how to hold. Keep it. Don't let them twist it. They won't understand why I did this. They'll say it's favoritism, but it's just fairness. And you deserve fairness. Love, Grandma. I didn't cry. Not then. I smiled. I folded it carefully, put it in my sketchbook, and then I pulled out my iPad and started drawing again, for the first time since she died. I should have known peace wouldn't last. 7 days. That's all I gave them to clear out of Grandma's house. And I thought they'd leave quietly, after all the evidence, the legal threats, the second will with Grandma's voice on video. But toxic people don't retreat. They regroup. It started with a phone call. Unknown number. But I picked up. Eli, a familiar voice asked. It's Mark. Mark. My cousin. The one I used to build Lego castles with. We hadn't talked in years, but I remembered him being different. Less poisoned by the others. I heard what happened, he said. Janice is saying you forged everything. I rolled my eyes. Of course she is. I don't believe her, he said quickly. Look, I'm not calling to start drama. I just think you should know something. I paused. Go on. She hired someone, Mark said. Not a lawyer. Some guy who claims he helps families fix estate mix-ups. He's not legit. I overheard her saying he could delay your access to the funds by filing fraud complaints. I clenched my jaw. They really think they can scare me into giving it back? That's not the worst part, he said, his voice lowering. They were talking about your art fund. They found out where it's held. I think they're trying to freeze it. Click. I hung up. Immediately called the lawyer. He was already 2 steps ahead. They filed a temporary injunction, he said. Total nonsense, but it'll cause delays. They're trying to starve you out. Financially, I had $800 to my name. Rent on my old place was still due. I hadn't touched Grandma's money yet, not until the estate cleared. My savings were gone from months of unpaid work. The trap was clear: make me desperate, break me down. But I'd learned something in that house. Truth has a longer shelf life than lies. While they schemed, I started documenting everything. Texts, old voicemails, even Grandma's grocery lists. I digitized every receipt, every sketchbook. I built a timeline showing where I was and where they weren't. And then came the next gut punch. I got a call from my former roommate, Danny. Hey, did you post about Grandma yet? I frowned. What do you mean? I saw a TikTok. It's going viral. Looks like your story. Like, the exact story. Same names. Same inheritance drama. But from someone else's account. I opened the app. My heart dropped. There it was. A girl named Jess Taylor. Not my cousin Jess, but someone I'd never heard of, telling my story. Word for word. Even the part about the second will and the letter. She was racking up likes. Comments were pouring in. OMG, this is like a movie. You deserve everything, girl. Your family sounds toxic AF. I scrolled to the bio. Linktree. Venmo. Amazon wishlist. My stomach turned. Someone had stolen my grief and monetized it. I messaged the account. No reply. I called my lawyer. He asked the same question I was already thinking. Who fed her your story? There were only 3 people I'd told in detail. The lawyer, Mark, and Danny. Danny, my old roommate. I texted him. Did you tell anyone about my grandma? He replied almost instantly. Bro, chill. It's not like it's copyrighted. I stared at the screen. You told someone about the will? Typing bubble. Then, I might have mentioned it to this girl I've been seeing. She thought it would make a good TikTok. I didn't think you'd care. My fingers trembled. You didn't think I'd care that you gave away my real-life trauma to a stranger? No response. I was boiling. My family was trying to starve me out. My so-called friends sold my pain for clout. And the internet thought some girl with a ring light was the hero of my story. I wasn't just grieving anymore. I was under attack. And yet, somewhere in all that chaos, I heard Grandma's voice in my head. Don't match their cruelty. Outlive it. I saved every screenshot, reported the TikTok, filed a DMCA complaint. Then I posted one of my own. Just me. No filter. No drama. Just the truth. My name is Eli, I said. My grandma raised me. I cared for her until her last breath. My family tried to erase me from her will, but she left me something they can't take. Her trust. Her voice. Her final choice. And if you think I'll let that be stolen by blood or strangers, think again. In 24 hours, it passed hers in views. People recognized the truth. They saw the receipts. Some of them even found Jess Taylor and dragged her in the comments. Not that it mattered. She disabled them, then went private. Meanwhile, Janice sent me a text. Enjoy your internet pity party. We'll see what the court thinks of your lies. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked through the garden Grandma used to tend every spring. Tomatoes, peppers, lavender. I found a small rock she'd once painted. On the bottom, in faded ink. Grow through what you go through. I held it in my palm, grounded. They could keep shouting. I had something stronger. Proof. Purpose. And it was signed in ink and love. A week after going public with the video, my inbox looked like a war zone. Some people shared their own stories of inheritance betrayal. Strangers sent me words of encouragement. Others sent money, small donations from artists, nurses, even a retired schoolteacher. Then, one message changed everything. It was an email. Subject line: I was your grandmother's best friend. We need to talk. From Margot.L.King at. At first, I thought it was a scam. But then I opened it. Hi Eli. My name is Margot King. Your grandmother and I were close friends for over 40 years. I saw your video. She told me everything. I have something she asked me to give you. If things went the way she feared, please call me. It's time. There was a phone number. A landline. I waited an hour. Then I called. A soft voice answered. Eli, Yes, I said cautiously. I'm so sorry for your loss. But your grandma, she wasn't naive. She knew they'd come for you. My throat tightened. She told you that. She told me everything, Margot said. She was scared of what Janice and the others might do. She thought they'd find the first will and try to act like it was final. They did, I said. They held a will reading without me. Claimed she thought I was ungrateful. Margot's laugh was bitter. They're the ungrateful ones. All they ever wanted from her was money. But she left you something far more important than they realize. Then she said something that froze my spine. The painting. I sat up. What painting? The one she hid behind the fireplace mirror. Did you find it yet? I had no words. Because no, I hadn't even thought to look behind the fireplace. I hadn't touched that part of the house. It was sealed off, still untouched since the funeral. She told me, Margot continued, that if anything happened, if things went dark, you'd find your light there. That night, I went to the house alone. I stood in the parlor, where the fireplace sat like a dusty monument. Above it, the mirror. Large, heavy, slightly warped from age. I pulled a stepladder in from the garage. Heart pounding, I felt along the back rim of the mirror until I found a small metal latch, so subtle it could have been decorative. I pressed it. Click. The mirror tilted forward with a soft creak. Dust puffed out. And there it was. A thin, wrapped canvas. Taped to the back. I pulled it out and gently unwrapped the fabric. The painting was beautiful. A woman standing on a stormy cliff, holding a small boy in her arms. The wind blowing her gray hair back. Her other arm pointed forward, to a sun breaking through the clouds. And at the bottom corner, in Grandma's shaky script, to Eli, when they try to darken your name, shine louder. But behind the canvas, there was more. A safe. I nearly dropped the painting. A small, combination lock safe had been bolted into the stonework, hidden by the artwork. Margot hadn't mentioned that part. I checked the painting again. The back of the frame had numbers penciled in the wood. April 23rd, 59. Her birthday. I dialed it in. Click. Inside was a manila envelope marked confidential, for Eli only, and a flash drive. I opened the envelope first. Inside were printed emails. From my Aunt Janice. Dozens of them. To Grandma's old estate lawyer, the one she fired. And they were damning. She's not of sound mind anymore. I recommend we move forward with the original will. She doesn't know what she's saying. She's been hallucinating. Please disregard any changes she claims she wants to make. Some were dated after Grandma filed her second will. Janice had tried to block it from going through. She'd claimed Grandma was delusional, unwell, despite medical records showing otherwise. I pulled out the flash drive and rushed to my laptop. On it, a video. Grandma, sitting in her garden, holding the painting in her lap. She looked frail, but focused. Eli, if you're seeing this, it means they tried to take what I gave you. But you are not alone. I knew you'd fight for the truth. And I'm proud of you. They told me not to trust you, that you were a waste. But they didn't see you hold my hand when I forgot how to use a fork, or help me brush my hair when I couldn't lift my arm. You gave me dignity when no one else did. And now, I'm giving you power. They will scream, lie, threaten. Let them. You have what matters, proof, justice, and love. I covered my mouth. I couldn't breathe. This video, this envelope, was everything. With the emails, the painting, and the footage, I had an arsenal. The next day, I walked into the lawyer's office and dropped everything on his desk. He leaned back in his chair, smiling. Well, looks like we've got ourselves a nuclear bomb. He called Janice's lawyer personally. I was in the room when he said it. We now have documented evidence of attempted interference with a signed will, elder manipulation accusations with no medical backing, and suppression of testamentary intent. If you want this to go to court, we'll let it. And your clients will leave with nothing but legal fees and shame. There was silence on the other end. Then the lawyer sighed and said, "Let me talk to my client." Later that night, I got a text from Janice. Just 3 words. You win. Congrats. No apology. No explanation. But I didn't need one. I'd already won something far more valuable. The truth. The truth, as it turns out, doesn't end things. It starts a war. The morning after Janice's surrender, I expected quiet, closure, maybe even relief. But instead, I woke up to rage. Not mine. Theirs. 27 missed calls. 3 voicemails. Half a dozen new comments under my YouTube video, some supportive, Others brutal. You just want attention. No wonder your family cut you off. How dare you do this after your grandmother died? So, you manipulated an old woman for money? The comments weren't coming from strangers. They were coming from extended family, their friends, even a couple of my old high school classmates. One of them reposted my video with the caption, "When the black sheep plays victim and sues for sympathy." Hashtag Stay Classy Eli. It went mildly viral. 82,000 views by lunchtime. By dinner? A journalist emailed me for a quote. But the real sucker punch came later. A notification popped up. New video. Our side of the story, what really happened with Grandma's will. Posted by the Whitaker Family Channel. Yes, they made a YouTube channel. In the thumbnail, Janice, crying. I clicked play. "We've been silent long enough," she began, with a tissue in hand. "This has been a devastating time. Not just for us, but for the truth. My mother was not herself in her final days. I watched in disbelief as she spun a masterclass in public manipulation. She called me estranged, claimed I'd only returned home because I had nowhere else to go, that I disturbed Grandma's final peace, that I forged closeness just to manipulate her emotions in a vulnerable state. She used words like heartbreaking, gaslighting, and ambush. Then came the guest appearance, my cousin Beth. He didn't even visit Grandma the last 3 years before her decline, she said, blinking tears. Then suddenly he moves in and starts calling himself her favorite. It was unsettling. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't, because it was working. The comments? Flooded. "This is what happens when you let bitter failures near your elders. Classic narcissist behavior. Didn't he quit art school twice? Sounds like he needed a payday. And worst of all, that house belongs to Janice. Everyone knows it. That house. My house now. Legally. Emotionally. Undeniably. But the internet didn't care about facts. They cared about feelings. That night, I sat in my grandmother's favorite chair, staring at the fireplace. Not for comfort. For strategy. Because if they wanted a war, I was done defending. I was ready to fight. I called Margot first. "I'm thinking of doing an interview," I told her. "Good," she said. "Because silence is complicity." Then I called the right journalist, one who had reached out weeks ago, but whom I'd ignored. A woman named Ivy Cruz who ran an investigative podcast called Inheritance, Blood, Money, and the Ties That Rot. I agreed to meet her in person. We sat down for a 2-hour recording. I told her everything. The year I spent taking care of Grandma. The paintings. The meals. The night she couldn't remember her own name, but still remembered my graduation date. The safe. The video. The second will. The emails. Ivy just listened. When I finished, she said, "I believe you. But facts aren't enough anymore. We need to make people feel what you felt." So she built an episode around it. Episode 23. He called her Grandma. They called him a thief. When it dropped, it exploded. Within 72 hours. 3.6 million plays. Top 5 on Spotify. Thousands of new followers. And for once, justice in the comments. Okay, this broke me. I'm sobbing. I've never even met him, and I'd trust Eli with my life. They tried to erase him. His grandma wouldn't let them. The painting part? Legendary. But fame is a two-edged sword. Because with the love came their retaliation. Beth posted an edited clip of me crying in the interview, captioned, "Manipulation 101. Notice how his tears start only after the mic check." Then Janice filed an appeal. Yup, she took the estate back to court, claiming undue influence and mental coercion during Grandma's final months. The judge scheduled a preliminary hearing. And just like that, the final battle was on. I had everything. The will, the lawyer, the emails, the painting, the video, and now, public support. But they had legacy, optics, and generational clout in the town. On the day of the hearing, I walked into the courthouse wearing Grandma's favorite green scarf, tucked inside my coat pocket like armor. Janice was there. So was Beth, and a few other relatives who hadn't looked me in the eye since 2019. As we entered the courtroom, Janice looked over at me and whispered, "This doesn't end today." I didn't answer, because she was right. It didn't end that day. It exploded. When Ivy Cruz showed up with a live recording permit and an open mic. When Margot walked in, ready to testify. When the family lawyer confirmed the second will's timeline with receipts. When the court clerk read aloud the line Grandma wrote in her final directive. To Eli, who stayed when it got hard, when I got lost, When I forgot who I was, thank you. My house is yours. May it always feel like home. Janice went pale. Beth left early. The judge dismissed the appeal as unfounded and offensive to the decedent's memory. And I walked out with the scarf in my hand, and the world watching. But the real twist wasn't the courtroom win. It was what I found in the attic the next morning. Something even Grandma never told me about. A box. Sealed. Marked. For when they try to come back. The attic smelled like cedar, dust, and memory. I didn't go up there often, not since I moved back into the house. It felt sacred, like a museum of grief, packed with forgotten boxes and half-said goodbyes. But that morning, after the hearing, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Because the box wasn't hidden. It was waiting, dead center of the attic floor, wrapped in a blue and white quilt, labeled in Grandma's handwriting. For when they try to come back. My pulse jumped. I knelt. I unwrapped the quilt and lifted the lid. Inside, a manila envelope, 2 flash drives, a hard copy of her second will, and a leather-bound journal, her journal. It was dated April 3rd, 2019 to September 18th, 2023. The exact span of time I spent by her side. Every page was full. Her thoughts, fears, and observations. Entries like, Eli brought me tomato soup today. No one else has called in weeks. He thinks I'm sleeping, but I saw him fix the cabinet door again. Beth came by for 10 minutes. She wanted my pearl ring. Didn't even ask how I was. I gave her costume jewelry instead. She didn't notice. Eli read me his comics today. He's so talented. I don't know how he still believes in people. But the most important entry was near the end. I filed the second will today. My lawyer said I should notify the family, but I won't. I want them to reveal who they really are. And they will. They always do. I trust Eli to stand when they try to tear him down. I sat back on the attic floor and wept. Not for myself, but because she knew. She saw everything, even when she acted like she didn't. The betrayal, the selfishness, the greed, and the quiet war I'd been fighting with a smile and a casserole. But the flash drives? They had more. One contained a video diary, 6 entries, one every 2 months, all addressed to me. Her voice filled the attic. Hi, sweetheart. If you're watching this, I guess they did what I feared they would. Tried to erase you. Tried to keep what wasn't theirs. But don't let them shrink your soul. You are not a mistake. You are not a thief. You are my heart. My pride. You stayed. That's all I ever needed to know. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just vindication. It was love, unfiltered, uncensored, immortal. And then I heard the car. Janice's black Lexus. Pulling into the driveway. I looked through the attic window. She was walking toward the porch with a legal envelope in hand. I came down slowly, box in hand, and opened the door before she could knock. Eli, she said flatly, I'm not here to fight. I said nothing. She held out the envelope. It's a settlement offer. From the rest of the family. We'd like to negotiate visitation rights to the house and shared access to any art proceeds. If you agree not to release anything else publicly. It wasn't just insulting. It was delusional. I'm not signing anything, I said. Her smile was thin. So you're choosing pride over peace? No, I said, and held up the journal. I'm choosing Grandma's words over your memory. Then I handed her a copy of the podcast's next press release. Ivy had just sent it to me. It included a teaser for an upcoming art show at the house, featuring Grandma's work, curated by me, open to the public. All profits going into a scholarship fund for young artists with family baggage and no support. You think this is over? Janice whispered. No, I said. It's just beginning. But you don't get to be part of it. Then I shut the door in her face. 3 months later, the house was full of people. Strangers. Fans. Survivors. Each one walked through the hallway covered in Grandma's paintings, each paired with a quote from her journal. At the end of the tour, in what used to be the sitting room, there was a final painting. The one I'd restored. The one Grandma and I finished together. A boy, standing in front of a storm. Beneath it, I wrote her final journal entry. They won't remember what you said. They'll remember that you stayed when no one else did. They'll remember who lit the candle in the dark. That night, I stood at the window and watched the fireworks go off above the town square. Freedom, not just from their control, but from the story they tried to write for me. I didn't win because of what I got. I won because I remembered who I am. And she did too. Always.